Hello, everybody. Welcome to Political Football. My name is Dave. I'm here with Scott. We're part of the Matty Ice Media Network. Real excited to be here with you guys this week. We're discuss some of the biggest free agent signings, new contracts, re-signings, trades, that sort of things happened over the last 3 weeks or so in the NFL. Now that we've had some time to digest it, understand what's fully going on here. Scott, how are you doing this week?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
I'm doing good. You're looking good, by the way. You looking to drop a little weight, maybe?
I have.
All right.
Yeah. I had ballooned a little.
Happens to the best of us.
Yeah. Yep.
I am in the process of trying to get my hands on some semi-glutide right now. So
yeah. How's that go?
Well, my insurance won't cover it. I've had 2 doctors say it's okay, take it, prescribed it, whatever. Insurance won't cover it. So 2 things. 1, for my man Luigi, and 2,
I knew you were going there.
and 2, like, this is truly infuriating. This is one of those things where it's like, it's infuriating in principle, but when it happens to you, I mean, thank God it's not like life or death, at least not right away.
Yeah.
But, like, who the hell is my insurance company to determine what they will and won't cover that my doctor prescribes?
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. But it's been like that for a long time, you know?
Yeah. And if we weren't living in the world's worst timeline, we could have been addressing this instead of, I don't know,
any myriad of other things happening.
Yeah. Apparently Jackie Robinson being black was a problem. That's the most recent thing I saw.
Is this new? Are you new here?
Yeah, just a whole bunch of nonsense. So we're not going to get into too much of that here today. We are going to focus on a lot of these signings. Now, I'm working on another project I'm still not ready to announce, but it's taking up most of my time. So I once again turned to ChatGPT to help me with my notes. They did a lot better job this week. However, best I could do was get them sorted by position. But Scott, I know you know yourself, so I just start running through some names and some details here. I know you'll be able to have thoughts and takes for the people.
Yeah, well, on some of it, but always remember that free agency is not the great bonanza from a win-losses standpoint that a lot of people think, if that makes sense. Like, I know Lions fans in particular were very upset that they were quiet in free agency, and it's like you were 15-2 and you're returning a bunch of elite football players that are not available as free agents.
Yes.
So, yes, the Bears and the Vikings are making moves, but we'll see how that shakes out.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. The truth is that in the NFL, besides drafting a franchise quarterback, there's nothing that really can, like, give you, like, 6 more wins than you did the year before. Like, you have to draft Jaden Daniels or draft C.J. Stroud and have him that rookie deal. But I think free agency is one of the things that can move the win-loss column the most. You can easily improve or get worse by 3 games either way.
Yeah, and like some of the teams have done a pretty good job of bolstering an entire position group, which is smart. It's cool because in particular to this draft or what they have on their roster, they might not have that help coming. So yeah, you can get help. It's just not sustainable. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we'll talk about one of these teams later.
Yeah.
They have a bunch of older players that they've brought in, and players who have been kind of banged up. So I could see them getting a little short-term boost, but in 2 years, I don't know how much this free agent class is going to help this particular team.
Right. And so, if a team last year was 7-10, free agency alone, I think, can make them 10-7 or 4-13 if they get it really wrong. Then you have the draft, other things. But I also include re-signing your own players as part of free agency or extending your players as part of free 100%. Agency.
Yeah.
So to start with that, Buffalo, to me, actually had, I think, the biggest move, Denver Cincinnati, this year when they extended Josh Allen 6 years, $330 million, locking him in until his age 34 season, the end of the decade. To me, just know you have him. You know what the money is going to be for the next 5 years for him. Now you can plan around that. I think this is one of the key moves because he is one of the best players in the league who probably won't be seeking a raise again ever.
Yeah, and then, with the cap expanding, that he's not, that he's going to be a Bill for a long time. You could restructure him and even lengthen.
Mhm.
You have a lot of flexibility with this contract to do things down the road. They still need. I mean, it's the same team that feels like it can't get over the hump. So, the draft will be very important for them.
Yeah, I just think that was a really good move for them. I tried to have ChatGPT put it in alphabetical order by team name, and it just could not figure it out.
It's all
This
good.
this technology is both extremely powerful and terrifying, and also really doesn't know what it's doing a lot.
Yeah.
Which I think is a horrible combination.
Yeah, that's generally that's a
Yeah.
bad combo.
Yeah, like I really don't understand why it doesn't know what alphabetical order. I said by city or state name, right? Not by nickname. So like Arizona first and Washington last, and it just could not do it. So I have it by position, which I think is the better way to do it. Anyhow, but I do want to mention for Buffalo, they also extended Gregory Rousseau, their first round pick from a few years ago, who was a pick late in the first round, if I recall.
Mm-hmm.
And it just goes to show that if you do smash those late first round picks, you can sustain yourself and your franchise.
Yes. And he's a good example of generally what kind of talent's available late in the first. It's a player who probably is a floor kind of player. I mean, you know how it works. If you're in the top 10, you're banking on the upside of whatever, premium athlete it is that you're drafting. With a player like that, you know what you're getting. If he gets to his floor, you're comfortable with it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he had some ceiling, but a pretty stable floor, and he's there. Good. I mean, these guys deserve all the money they can get. So good for him. It's good.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Most of these players deserve as much money as they can get. Actually,
well, there's a caveat in there.
Yeah, on this list, it might be everybody. I don't think there's any just total jackasses on this list. I'll double check as we go through. Like Deshaun Watson doesn't deserve anything.
Dude, a team was willing to give him all that money. Fine.
I mean, that doesn't mean he didn't deserve it.
It does.
People get things they don't deserve all the time. Look at our wives. Like, we don't deserve them, but hey, here we are.
True. It's true.
Exactly. Two more quarterbacks who I think that their signings were really strong for their teams and for the money they paid. Sam Darnold signs with the Seahawks for 3 years, $100.5 million. Justin Fields signs with the Jets, 2 years, $40 million. I like both of these for the same reason. If they work out, great. If they don't, you suck. Draft a quarterback next year.
Yes, and both of them, I guess, they're really 1 year deals. Both of them. I think Darnold's got it's like 30s. Don't hold me.
They would prefer 2 years in Seattle, but they could after 1 year.
They can. It's a 1 year, $37.5 million guaranteed deal with the team kind of extension or a team choice to extend it if they want. But I mean, I think that's super smart. They're not in a position to take a quarterback in this class unless they totally reach on a player. Next year, I would anticipate the quarterback class being kind of loaded next year.
I do too.
So and going forward, I don't think it's just next year. I think it's the next couple of years. There's going to be a lot of talent in the draft, but to not tie themselves or restrict themselves in any way into the future and to get a player like Darnold, it's fine. I think it's smart. The Jets, I think, are a team that did a super smart thing with a quarterback. You all right down there? The dog. So the Jets signed Fields to a 2 year, $40 million contract, if I'm not wrong on that. And that feels very much like a year to year, 2 year kind of a deal, but it also feels like there's flexibility to go both ways. If they can extend him if he has a really good year, and it shouldn't be crazy to extend him and absorb that $20 million that's left on his contract. Or if it just doesn't work, they can just move away because they put so many void years on the end of his deal that his dead cap hit's going to be like $5 million for the next 4 years, which is, it's meaningless. But I would hope that the Jets run him and let him be his best self instead of forcing him to be, something that he's not. And if that's the case, I would expect him to be pretty productive.
Yeah, I think, and the thing too is that he could still just be getting better. He's been a really elite prospect his entire career, and I stand for Justin Fields. So
I know you do.
So I'm excited about this, but
he is entering year 6, I think.
Yes.
So
yeah, he's 26 right now. So like this is kind of it. If he's ever going to develop into a starter, this is his Jared Goff moment. Like he better do his Baker Mayfield in Tampa. Like he better do it right now if it's going to happen for him.
Yes, time is running.
Yeah, but I do think he has that potential. Now I asked ChatGPT for the top 50 most impactful moves. It left Geno Smith to the Raiders off of this, which I don't know if that's AI not knowing what it's doing or just really saying something about the Raiders. But I think Geno being traded to the Raiders is really important too, because the Raiders were in real danger of just having no quarterbacks again this season.
Yeah. And, I think that there was some connection between Brady and Shedeur Sanders and that whole thing. There's so much smokescreen out there with these quarterbacks, but you don't want to go into the draft with no quarterback and feel forced to have to take a player that you might not feel like you love just because you need a quarterback. So cool. Good. It's fine. Geno Smith's a good player. It feels quarterback purgatory, right? Like, I mean,
yeah, it gives, it helps give the Raiders a floor. I love from Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers to me, it should not be a first round pick in fantasy and tight end premium. He should be the 101 in any sort of redraft tight end premium league. He had a record-setting year last year with, Dumb and Dumber as quarterbacks. Yeah. And so now he gets Geno in there. That's going to be good for him. So I agree that it gives the Raiders a strong floor. I still don't know that it makes them better than the 3rd-and-a-half worst team of that division.
Oh, I agree.
Right. It doesn't catch the Chargers. It for sure doesn't catch the Chiefs. And the Broncos probably still ahead anyways.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much it really helps them, but it will make them at least be more competitive.
Yeah.
This says Russell Wilson signed with the Broncos. That's not true, though.
No.
Okay. Ugh.
Unless that happened in the last 3.5 seconds, I don't think that's
true. Yeah, because that'd be insane. He's going back there and did that backup Bo Nix. Like he would never. He hated it there. Sean Payton hated him. There's no way that's true.
Yeah.
And Kenny Pickett got traded from Philly to Cleveland.
He did, but that doesn't feel like anything that's really all that impactful.
I guess depending on what they do, though, he could have a chance to compete for a starting job because they don't really have anybody as of yet.
He could, but that's not good for the Browns.
No,
if you're looking to be the 101 in the 2026 NFL draft, maybe that's good for the Browns.
Yeah, absolutely. Running back position. Again, last year we had Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry. We had all these big name running backs. Without a doubt, the most impactful running back signing this year, Najee Harris to the Chargers, 1 year, $9.25 million. Jim Harbaugh finally gets his guy. He's been after him now for 9 years.
Yep.
And he finally has him. I don't think Najee Harris is a very good football player.
Yeah.
But coaches love giving him the football. So for that reason, I think Najee Harris is a good bet right now to lead the league in touchdowns next year. Yeah,
that's possible. I mean, Dobbins did his share of scoring early in the season, and they're going to run the ball. I think it's reasonable. I wonder. I don't know what Harris's market was as far as what other teams were willing to give him, but it does set himself up to hit free agency again in a year, and he should be coming off a productive season.
Yeah, I think so. He's already 27.
Yeah.
Man, time flies. Yeah, I think he's going to be productive there. I think the Chargers will still draft a running back by the end of day 2 to go with him.
There are like 30 plus running backs with draftable grades. Maybe, I mean, that's not hyperbole.
And 2 of them are from Michigan.
Yeah.
So Jim could have his choice here. I do think a Najee Harris, Khalil Mullins backfield would be hell on defenders after the game.
My guess is you can get Khalil Mullins in round 5 or 6.
Yeah, I think so.
Year. Maybe even a little bit later.
Yeah. But they clearly know they need more help at the running back position. Now, to me, the next most impactful running back signing, because there really aren't any to write home about, Elijah Mitchell goes from San Francisco to Kansas City, signs a 1-year, $2.5 million deal, which means they can easily cut him.
Yeah.
It also indicates to me that 2 things. The Chiefs aren't in love with Isaiah Pacheco, and they are going to draft somebody.
Yes, and yes. I would think
it's going to be Pacheco, Mitchell, and whoever they draft.
Yeah.
But Mitchell could emerge from that group.
Sure. He's a quality, he's a good running back. It's interesting what the 49ers did, because it kind of clears the way for Garendo to be their backup running back. And if history tells us things, he might be a pretty valuable player next year.
The 49ers will also draft a running back in the 2nd or 3rd round this year.
And they should, yes.
Because that's what they do.
Yeah.
And they love that size-speed combination. So what are we looking at here? Dylan Sampson?
Maybe. I mean, they run that wide zone stuff, so it needs to be a specific player with some speed and the ability to read things. So yeah, I mean, I could see Sampson's fine. He's big and fast. There's a ton of those guys though. There's a bunch. Trying to think of a good pairing for that. It's fine. They're gonna prioritize that though, because after McCaffrey, they traded Jordan Mason to the Vikings.
Yep.
I'm probably jumping ahead there, but yeah.
No, that's okay. Jordan Mason didn't make my list. Rico Dowdle of the Panthers didn't make the list. Honestly, the Panthers signing Rico Dowdle and extending Chuba Hubbard really just means Jonathan Brooks is probably not going to play this season.
I think Brooks going into free agency, it was pretty common knowledge. He was, they're going to give him the entire year and just hope and pray that they get anything. Right.
Yeah.
But, man, what a brutal injury.
Yep.
Yeah, that sucked seeing that.
On day 4 of free agency, Jerry Jones finally realized free agency was happening. Signed Javonte Williams, 1 year, $3 million from the Denver Broncos.
Yeah. Oh.
The only reason this made my list is because it just indicates that Dallas still has no idea what they're doing. They don't know how to build a team. They don't know how to do anything to get anybody any help.
Well, they're definitely in the market for a running back at 12. I mean, as crazy as it sounds, they are.
But they're also in the market for a receiver and an offensive lineman and a corner and an edge.
All kinds of help. Yeah.
In my most recent mock draft that I didn't publish anywhere, I have the Chiefs taking TreVeyon Henderson at the end of the 1st round. And they have the Cowboys actually taking Will Johnson, the corner from Michigan.
Yeah.
In the 1st round, which I think would be much smarter for them to do, but they won't. They'll take Matthew Golden.
Yeah. I can't see Janty being available to them at 12.
Never.
But I could see them falling in love with a Quinshawn Judkins or an Amarian Hampton kind of player.
Mm-hmm.
That seems to be the profile of player they prefer on the Zeke Elliott, spectrum of things, I suppose.
Yeah. Kind of slow with a 3-year shelf life. Yeah.
Yeah. Just, big flashy, flashy bruisers, I guess. But the Cowboys are the Cowboys. They can do just about anything. The running back position, it's going to be interesting between what Chicago decides to do, what the Raiders decide to do, and maybe what a team like Denver decides it wants to do at that position, all vying for maybe one player.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see.
Teams, assuming if the Raiders don't take Ashton Jeanty at 6, the Jets could easily move down to 20 and get maybe another 1st or 2 more seconds or something with Denver, that Denver come up for him.
Yeah.
And help rebuild their roster.
I can see that. I can see that happening. Yeah.
Yeah. If he gets by the Raiders at 6, there should be a bidding war to come up and get him.
Yeah.
And by should be, I mean, I expect there to be. Now that there should be, no running back is worth that price. I don't have any other running backs on my list here. Is there any that I just completely overlooked?
No, not necessarily. I want maybe Aaron Jones back to Minnesota-ish, but
yeah, the one move the Vikings made this year I didn't like.
Yeah, I mean they made some moves, but that's a team we can get into later that I think those moves might not. I mentioned it earlier. Those are, I mean, Javon Hargrave is old. Ryan Kelly hasn't really played in a year and a half or 2 years. Very injured. Jonathan Allen is a not all that productive against the run defensive tackle. So you're bringing in older players and banking on those guys, and it just makes me wonder, like, what is the future for the Vikings? Because
so I take it this means you like the Will Fry signing because you didn't actually mention him.
He's fine, and Ed Ingram are fine. They're fine. They're all bolstering the interior, and that's all cool. But spending a lot of money doing it that way is definitely. I mean, it's definitely taking their roster and saying we were a 14-3 team last year, and yes, JJ McCarthy's taking over from Sam Darnold, which I think is an upgrade.
Yeah.
I would, if I was betting money on it right now, I would bet on the Vikings to win the division, which is a bummer as a Lions fan, but I would. And that means I'm also telling you that I think JJ McCarthy might just be like a total dude. So yeah, that the Vikings worry me, but I don't think realistically any of those guys going into the future, it's not as impactful as like missing on Dallas Turner last year. If he is a bust, I know it's a year in. If he is, that's a lot more impactful than any of those moves that they've made.
So I think Kevin O'Connell agrees with you that their Super Bowl window is open.
Mm-hmm.
So they convinced Harrison Smith to come back. Harrison Smith, I think, is like 58, 59 years old at this point. And like if they sign all these old guys, Harrison Smith comes back, they re-sign Aaron Jones. Like they're looking to win immediately.
Yes.
Where do they pick in the draft? They pick 25th-ish?
In that range, yeah. Yeah.
They could just look to take another just immediate impact right away, skill player, something like that you might not expect. And just like, this is it.
I suppose they could go think of like Emeka Egbuka in that offense.
He won't be there.
He may not. I don't know.
But they could go running back.
They could. You just traded for Jordan Mason and you brought back Aaron Jones. So it feels like that would be such an exaggerated investment into what I consider are smart people.
Yeah.
Understanding that maybe the running back that they take at 25 is not going to be all that different than the running back that you might get at, say pick 67 or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's true.
Or 57, whatever it is. Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what they decide to do. Maybe safety is where they go to replace a guy like Harrison Smith.
I'm thinking Nick Worry.
I would love for the Vikings to take him.
Okay, so you don't like him?
No, not a huge fan of his game.
Malachi Starks obviously wouldn't be there.
We'll see. I don't know. I mean, I don't know where the NFL really values some of these guys.
By the way, in my mock, I had Egbuka going at 11 to San Francisco. Doesn't he just feel like a 49ers guy?
He kind of fits all over the place.
Pearsall, Jennings, Egbuka.
Yeah.
He just fits right in there.
Yeah, I suppose he could be your slot type if you wanted to run it that way. He'd be very effective there.
Yep.
That'd be good.
Speaking of wide receivers, it was hard for me to decide what the biggest was, but I think when you look at what Cincinnati did, it is clear and away the biggest.
Yeah.
The Bengals re-signed Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. T. Higgins gets 4 years, $116 million. Jamar Chase gets 4 years, $161 million. Is now the highest paid non-quarterback in the league. And it is well-deserved, in my opinion. These are good signings for this team. I think this is the right thing for them to do. The way they did it, I think they cost themselves $50 million. But
yes, they did. Yeah, they really did.
But I think it's smart. Yeah, I think it's smart of them to build through Joe Burrow and like we're going to score 50 points a game, and we'll try to draft 8 good defenders to see what we can do.
Yeah, I mean, just juxtapose it. So Jamar Chase was in the same draft class as Penei Sewell and Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yes.
The Lions signed Amon-Ra St. Brown to his extension last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say he got like 30 million.
30, yeah.
And the Bengals decided they just wanted to wait, and it's cost them significant money. I would say it's cost them more than $50 million over the life of the 2 contracts for both those receivers.
Yes. Yeah, they didn't do the most efficient way, but I think it is the correct way to do it.
I do too, and they're going to get crushed for it, but you can't just let T. Higgins walk away for a compensatory 3rd round pick.
And it's a like particular strategic decision, specific decision. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to win games. This is it. It may or may not work out, but that's what they've decided. We're going to spend all this money on offense, try to draft some defenders, hope for the best.
Yes, and I would expect Joe Burrow to throw for 40-plus touchdowns next year and them to win and lose games that are like 41-35.
Yeah.
38-35 kind of games where they're going to score points. They are.
The other person that I think this is good for is Chase Brown, because wrapping up all this money, the receivers, the Bengals were so bad on defense last year.
Yeah.
They were like as bad as the Lions once all the Lions were hurt.
Yeah.
The Bengals should spend like at least the first 3 rounds should all be on defense, not a running back.
Yes.
And they only brought in Samaje Perine came back.
Chase Brown's really good. Like I don't know why they would try to.
I think most teams want to have 2 good running backs, and I would not be shocked if teams didn't think Chase Brown was on his own Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry. We got the man here. Like he's more like we want 2 people.
Yeah, right? That's fine. So take one in round 5, and you'll get a good player in round 5.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But the later in the draft that person is taken, the less likely they are to just usurp and just put Chase Brown in a coffin.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas if they took R.J. Harvey in the 2nd round, maybe R.J. Harvey comes in and like Chase Brown's out getting 30% of the work out of nowhere because R.J. Harvey's just that much better. The 5th round guy's not going to do that.
Maybe, but I don't know that helps you win football games, what you just described. With that roster, with all of their needs, especially if Hendrickson may not be coming back.
That's exactly what I'm saying. So they will take a running back in round 5, which is why it's good for Brown, because they won't be taking an earlier running back now because of these decisions.
Yeah.
So I think Chase Brown is like a pretty safe best ball pick now. Yes, fantasy football is happening. Yes, I do have almost 100 fantasy football teams at this point.
There's no way.
And almost 200 fantasy baseball teams. There's a player for the Yankees named Yason, not Jason, but Yason with 2 S's. It's a cool name, but it really makes me mad every time I see it because it like my brain breaks a little.
Yeah.
Because it's so different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have like 20% of players I've ever heard of in fantasy baseball this year. I will end with about 200 teams by the time opening day comes around.
Good luck. I hope it goes well for you.
Yeah, me too. Anyways, I don't know anything about baseball. Back to football, which I do know about. The next most important signing for me at the wide receiver position is Davante Adams going to the Rams for 2 years, $46 million.
Yeah. Yes, he is going to light it up.
I think that this move makes the Rams a legitimate Super Bowl contender because they are like the B version of the Bengals. Stafford's not as good as Burrow. Puka's not as good as Chase. Davante Adams is no longer as good as T. Higgins. Maybe a push.
It is close.
But their division is giga ass, whereas the Bengals playing the AFC North.
Yeah.
So
No, I'm with you. And I just think that the whole thing there is about Stafford. And if Stafford stays healthy, that team is a nightmare.
And I
Kyron
think
Williams,
yes.
that team is loaded.
And they're a team that's designed, like they're built in a way that they could lose a bunch of games they shouldn't lose and make it to the playoffs as the worst division winner and still go to the Super Bowl.
And boat race everyone? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's still just wipe them out.
Yeah.
That is definitely a thing that could happen because their division is just nobody's that strong in that division. And we also can't forget that Matthew Stafford is, as Adam Levitan from ETR calls him, the wide receiver kingmaker. So many receivers have had their best years playing with Matt Stafford.
Yeah.
Including Cooper Kupp, Kenny Galladay, Calvin Johnson pretty much only played with them.
Yeah.
Golden Tate. There's so many players that all played with Stafford, had their best years with him.
Yeah.
I don't expect Davante Adams to have his best year this year. He's older. Puka's on the team. But what Odell Beckham did a couple years ago, their Super Bowl year, I think Davante Adams was coming to be like 3 times that.
Yeah. Yeah, I just, I think he is such a dangerous route runner still. And Stafford, if they develop any kind of chemistry at all, which my assumption is that will happen because Stafford does that very quickly. I mean, look at how quickly it happened with Nakua, right? Yeah. So it's not tough to see Puka doing really good things and Adams having he could score a lot of touchdowns in that offense. He could.
Yeah. I just think it makes their offense pretty much set now.
Yeah.
And they could just bolster their team through the draft and other areas they want to get deeper at. Probably a lot more defense. I mean, they got the 2 best defensive players of the draft last year.
Yeah.
At least for the rounds they were picked in. They could go offensive line if they wanted. Now they can do a number of things.
But, it's a bad draft for that unless you want to guard.
Could you imagine, though, if the Raiders didn't panic on the clock last year and made that trade with the Rams and they got Brock Bowers?
Yeah.
Now, they wouldn't have Jared Verse, but there's no reason having Bowers would preclude them from signing Davante Adams.
Yeah, so you think about it.
Puka, Bowers, Adams.
Yeah. Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah. But yeah, huge there. I think the Rams, again, are ready to run it back to try to win the Super Bowl. The next most important to me, DK Metcalf gets traded from the Seahawks to the Steelers, then gets extended 5 years, $150 million. The Steelers send their 2025 first-round pick and a 2024 fourth-round pick in this deal. I love DK Metcalf as a player. I didn't
realize it was a first-round pick going back in that trade.
Double check that because, again, that's coming from ChatGPT, but that did, when I skimmed this, it seemed correct to me.
Yeah.
Do please double check that.
Yeah.
In the meantime, I love DK Metcalf as a player. I don't know if this is the best fit for him. For one, Arthur Smith just has no idea how to use a play like DK Metcalf. For 2, George Pickens is there as well. And
it's a second. It's a second rounder.
It's a second round pick. Okay.
So Seattle sending Metcalf and a 6th rounder for 52 overall, and they're getting a 7th rounder back.
Okay.
So that makes it a little, it's much more palatable, that kind of a deal, because
it is.
You're not giving up first round picks to then have to extend a guy for $30+ million for a
not DK Metcalf. You would for Jamar Chase.
Problem right now that the Bengals are facing. They're looking for a first round pick for him, but teams know that we're going to give up our first round pick and have to extend him for lots of money for an older player. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So DK is 27. So I don't like this deal on the one hand because it goes till he's 32, and so much of his game is predicated on his physicality. I think he'll be dust by then.
Yeah.
But my guess is the structure of the deals at the last year they can cut him or whatever.
I'm sure it's very flexible for them.
And,
the interesting thing is, what does it do for George Pickens in that offense? And what are they doing at quarterback?
So they're playing at quarterback because who knows? I think for George Pickens, it puts him on the trade block on draft night.
Yeah.
And I would not be shocked to see the Steelers package their first-round pick in George Pickens to move up for Shedeur. If Shedeur starts to slide a little bit. So they package like 21st and Pickens for 11 and a fourth.
Yeah.
And go get Shedeur, something like that. They also might just like Jackson Dart. Like everything about the Steelers right now is telling me they might just like Jackson Dart and think they can just take him where they're at.
Yeah, I could see them liking both of those guys. I worry for both of those guys about their ability to play in the cold. I really do. Neither has like what I would consider to be, good arm strength. Neither. Shedeur has really interesting ability to manipulate his arm angle to layer throws. It's really interesting the way he plays. So he's very accurate, all that stuff. It's just are teams like Cleveland and Pittsburgh kind of scared off at the idea that these guys are not going to be able to drive the ball through the wind in the cold. And, it's a thing. We'll see what decisions they make. I mean, having said that, we saw them take Kenny Pickett a couple years ago, and he had very small hands, and he wasn't like a big arm dude either,
And he was horrible.
And yeah. But I don't think his failures came because of his small hands. No. I think it was other stuff.
He also went to Pitt, so it's not like he wasn't used to the weather.
Yeah.
As far as George Pickens goes as well in this offense, let's say they keep both of them. I don't know how that's going to work. I think that their personalities conflict a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like, DK has to change his number. Pickens is never giving up 14. But, DK wants his number.
Yeah.
And that's the sort of thing for these two could just, completely tank.
Mike Tomlin's going to be having to do work.
I agree.
If anything, for you best ballers out there, Freiermuth becomes a pretty interesting option. Just depends on their quarterback.
And Chrissy here to help because DK already chose the number 4. Okay, that's good.
Letting us know.
Thank you for that. Now, that doesn't mean he's not resentful about it.
Sure.
Maybe Tomlin said, listen, Pickens is out of here in a month to just pick a number for now. Yeah, 14.
It's pretty easy to put a 1 on the back of your jersey, buddy.
Yeah, we can make that work. Arthur Smith, I think having DK Metcalf and George Pickens is a waste with him as an offensive coordinator.
Yeah,
he doesn't want to use players like that. I'm not sure he even knows how to use players like that.
What does it do for Jaylen Warren? I mean, they're going to take a running back. They are.
They're for sure taking a running back. Very similar to the Chase Brown situation, though. With this much investment at the receiver position, I expect the Steelers to go either offensive line or defense in the first round.
They took 3 offensive linemen last year, and they hit the bonanza last year.
Yeah.
Zach Frazier played center, and he's a high-level center. He's going to be really good.
But you called last year, by the way. I know you won't toot your own horn, but I will. You called this last year for the draft. You loved all 3 of these players.
Yes, Mason McCormick is a guard. He's going to play at a high level for a long time. And they lost Troy Fatanu early in the season last year, but he's going to play. Those 3 guys are going to be the foundation of whatever it is that they do going forward. It's good for their offense. It's just who plays quarterback and what do they do with their coordinator? Because that's the problem.
Yeah,
the coordinator.
As far as Jaylen Warren goes, losing Najee Harris is great for him.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
And whoever they bring in to compete with him, since it won't be a first-round pick, most likely, and they don't have their second-round pick, I like Jaylen Warren versus random third-round running back this year.
Yeah.
So I think it's really good for Jaylen Warren. We have a question here from Jake, longtime fan and friend of the show here. Jake says, should the Bolts sign Keenan Allen to a 1-year contract? If so, how much would be a proper amount in your opinions? The answer is no. Moving on.
That's awful quick.
I mean, please feel free if you disagree.
Well, they just brought back Mike Williams.
How many shambling corpses can you have on one team?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to sign Keenan Allen to a really cheap, incentive-laden kind of a deal and let him just be slot merchant kind of dude like he was out there, cool. But I almost think that they've moved on in some ways. Lad McConkey is a really good player,
Mhm.
and will continue to be an ascending player for them. But if they want to sign Allen, I think that you could give Allen a 1 year, $7 or $8 million contract, and it would be fine. Whatever. He might want to go back home. That's cool.
As long as he doesn't insist on playing time.
Well,
you know what I mean? If he's like, I'm here to do what I can, and if I get on the field, I do great. But I want him like, I'm expecting like, I play the slot, put McConkey on the outside. You better not take me off the field for Ladd,
But I think McConkey can play on the outside, and he would be fine there. So there is room for him to get playing time and whatever.
Yeah. I think Keenan's probably done, but you're right. A 1 year, whatever. You could sign anybody for that.
It doesn't preclude you from doing anything anywhere. It's fine.
The next most important to my mind is Chris Godwin re-signing with the Tampa Bay Bucks, 3 years, $66 million. This is important for a couple of reasons. One, it's important for the Bucks because they get Chris Godwin back. Second, the Patriots offered him $20 million more.
Yeah.
And he turned them down. Nobody wants to go to New England.
Well, some of that,
toxic, and I love it.
I think some of that is income tax related. Like if you consider what the income tax is in Florida as opposed to in the Boston area.
Yes, but somebody on the interwebs did the math.
Yeah,
he still gave up $14 million.
He did.
So while the tax is different, one thing I didn't know is that your game check gets taxed in the state that you play.
Correct. So it's not
where you live.
17 games of tax-free. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then now that's in the contract. Other people made the point, well, they have all this other income they get as well. If they live in Florida, then there's that. So, I mean, that could be the case there. But still, the idea that nobody wants to go to New England is, I love it so much. Like, that franchise has always been trash. It's always been toxic. It's always been bad. It just had Tom Brady, who's also all those things, but is like the GOAT. And so they keep winning. So people keep going to play there. Yeah. But now they're like, I mean, they treated their players horribly for so long, not extending them, training in the middle of the season. Just get the hell out of here. We're done with you. And players like, there's no reason to go there now. And I love it. Tell the people.
Because they're not winning anything. I mean, they picked early last year. They're picking early this year.
Yep.
They've got some free agents that they've brought in, but, yeah.
Cooper Kupp, 3 years, $45 million with the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah.
Horrible
I don't
deal.
love this move.
What?
I don't love it.
No. Well, the deal
I don't know what the contract structure is, though.
Yeah, if it's one of those really only 1 year deals, then whatever.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't like it for either party. I don't see the Seahawks being competitive this year. Although in that division, really anybody, I guess, could emerge in the right circumstance.
They could. And Darnold would have to be really good, but putting together the running game pieces that they have with Cooper Kupp and the different formations they're going to run with Jackson Smith and Jigba, it could be worse. It could be a lot worse.
I don't understand why you cut Tyler Lockett because he's old and dust just to sign Cooper Kupp, who is old and dust.
That's why I didn't love it. But
you know what I mean?
I mean, maybe he gets healthy this offseason and he reemerges, and has a good year or two left. But I mean, there's a reason why the Rams were so willing to move on from him.
And I assumed that the Chargers didn't want him because he wanted to stay on the West Coast. Obviously, if he plays for the Chargers, I think he can just stay in his own house.
Yeah.
Right. And the Chargers could use another good wide receiver. So you think the agents probably reached out to the Chargers. Seems like a pretty logical fit. And the Chargers probably said, no, we have no interest.
Yeah, not at the price, right? Like that's why, I think the price for Keenan Allen would have to be significantly reduced from Kupp's, and I don't know his contract details, but my assumption he's going to get, $20 million guaranteed kind of thing. And,
I think this is how I think it went. The Seahawks signed Darnold because he had such a good season in Minnesota. Coach goes to ownership and is like, we signed Sam Darnold, whatever. Now, when Sam Darnold was in Minnesota, he had this great cast. He had Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and TJ Hawkinson, goes, we have Jackson Smith-Njigba right now. We're going to get another big-time wide receiver. And the, 400-year-old owner of whoever it is of the Seahawks, here's named Cooper Kupp, and he's like, I love that guy.
Yeah.
He's my favorite wide receiver for unnamed reasons.
Yeah.
He's killed us for years.
Yep.
I could see it going that way, and so it just being the reason that they wanted to go ahead and make a decision.
And again, if this is a 1-year push with Darnold on a 1-year push, it's fine. It's just, I would hope that Seattle understands that they need more help at the receiver position, and it's just they're a little bit stuck in a corner because it can't be a slot receiver that's coming in there. It can't be like a slot only player. It has to be a guy who can play outside too.
Yes.
Otherwise, you have 3 guys where it's tough to find parts of the field for those guys to run into.
Yeah. Seahawks would be a great fit for Ted if they could find a way to get him.
They would. He'd be perfect there.
Okay, we're gonna start more lightning rounding the rest here because we do want to try to be out of here at 8:30. Very close to it. So next here, Christian Kirk traded to the Houston Texans from Jacksonville. Great deal for both teams, right? New coaching staff in Jacksonville. Move on, Christian Kirk. Kirk goes back home. I don't know if he's from Houston, but he went to Texas A&M.
Yeah,
actually, he's from Arizona. He went to high school in Arizona. Now that I remember, but the Texans, Steph Diggs is hurt and dust. And Tank Dell is not going to play this year.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden they're down to just Nico Collins.
Yeah.
Just like that. I think Christian Kirk is just a perfect professional wide receiver. You get him for not too expensive. You plug him in. You're ready to go.
Yeah. Yep.
DeAndre Hopkins signs a 1-year, $5 million deal with the Baltimore Ravens. My prediction is that this is not going to matter at all to make the playoffs. He might not even be on the active roster.
It's possible he could be dust.
Yep.
It is.
Tight end, Mike Gesicki, 3 years, $25 million re-signing with the Bengals, mainly because Joe Burrow loves him and he keeps Joe Burrow happy.
Yep.
I think it's a bad deal for literally any other team.
Yeah.
But he works out there as basically their slot receiver.
Yeah. Yeah.
Along the offensive line, Laramie Tunsil.
Well, there's 2 other tight ends, real quick.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Evan Engram going to Denver.
Yes.
It impacts the draft.
It sure does.
And he will be a very productive player in Denver. And then because Engram left Jacksonville, it leaves Brenton Strange, Jacksonville's tight end, to step into the void and be like the guy there. And he will. So those 2 guys, I think got help in the moves that were made for them.
Counter argument.
Shoot.
Where did Brenton Strange go to college?
Who cares?
Do you not know?
I don't know.
He went to Penn State.
Okay.
So,
I should have known what the way you were saying that.
Right. So as we all know, nobody who plays offense comes out of Penn State and gets better at football except Chris Godwin.
I don't know.
Saquon is awesome. It comes out and he's still awesome.
How many catches do you think Brenton Strange had last year? Just ballpark it.
31.
40.
Yeah.
With Evan Engram on the roster. I know Evan Engram missed time.
He was hurt. Yeah, Brenton Strange was a lock in cash in DFS for 3 straight weeks.
Yeah, but it's still, this is a guy who had 40 catches for 400 yards and now steps into a starting role.
I think Brenton Strange can be a viable starting tight end in the NFL because he's like a 4th round tight end pick, and that happens all the time.
Yeah.
I don't think Brenton Strange, I think his ceiling is Jake Ferguson, maybe Dalton Schultz, which is great for a 4th round rookie pick.
Yeah.
It is not Pro Bowl Evan Engram.
No.
Right. What I'm saying is that they don't have anything on the roster to replace Evan Engram. They might have a viable tight end, but they don't have anything to make up for what Evan Engram actually did. That production is going to have to come from elsewhere. Probably Brian Thomas Jr. Just continuing to ascend.
Him to have a monster year, but I would also expect Jacksonville to potentially be in the market for a receiver earlier than we think.
Yeah, I think every team should aim to have 3 receivers that are like 83 or higher on Madden.
Wouldn't that be a really nice fit? with Trevor Lawrence and Brian Thomas Jr. out of the slot, yes.
Wouldn't trading down, getting more picks for your shitty team and adding Ibuka instead be better?
I don't know that Ibuka can play outside like Tet can.
Okay.
He can, but I don't think he's going to be able to be a like, all right, we really have to figure out how we're going to defend this guy. But who's going to trade up to is somebody trading up with Jacksonville for who? For what? You know what I mean? Like, that's tough.
Jacksonville picks 5th.
Yes.
Yeah, that's tough because
quarterbacks, if they
Hunter and Carter are gone.
If they feel like they got to get in front of Vegas for Janty, then sure, I could see that. I could see the Bears going from 10 to 5. In fact, I think that makes a lot of sense for both teams. The Bears got to get in front of the Raiders for Janty. The Bears take Janty at 5.
Tet can still be there at 10.
Round picks. What's that?
Tet can still be there at 10.
He could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you there. Okay, offensive line. There's only 2 that I think are super important. One is one player, one's one team. Laremy Tunsil traded from the Texans to the Commanders. There was something going on with PFF Bobby and the Texans last year.
Yeah.
And like the offensive players. It never came out. I'm speculating, not reporting, but like clearly there was some locker room, like things really fell apart there.
Yeah.
PFF Bobby got fired, but I can see Laremy Tunsil. He strikes me as the type to kind of wear out his welcome if the situation were to get like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think he was all that great. I really don't. I mean,
no, he was bad last year.
Penalties. He had some issues.
He was definitely bad last year, but I think it could be much more attributed to him being unhappy at work more than like him falling off as a player.
Sure.
So Laremy Tunsil, the Commanders, I think is huge for the Commanders.
Yeah.
And huge for Jamie Daniels.
Stuff. Like Washington, real quick. Deebo is risky. Yeah, it just is. He's broken down body who's taking a lot of beating. Tunsil's risky because you just don't know exactly what you're getting. And then they gave so much money to Javon Kinlaw, who is just a abject kind of failure for a former an early first round pick from the 49ers.
He's a defensive tackle though, right?
Yeah.
The tackles get paid. I mean, even if you're mid, you're
going
to
get paid. Good ones do. He's not that. They brought a lot of risk on. It needs to work. I don't know that it's gonna. Sorry to sidetrack that.
No, that's fine. But I think the Commanders are in a position to where they need to take huge risks because they can't get incrementally better and run down Philly.
Yeah,
they can't stand pat or run down Philly. So like they're the type of team that should be trying to take on these big swings because if all 3 hit, maybe they run down Philly.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that the Kinlaw one in particular, I get the Tunsil thing is a swing, and I think it's smart. And Debo's great because I think he can give you some electric stuff that you need for a year or maybe 2 more, not much more than that. But the overpay of Kinlaw just feels like, wow, that's gross when you let Jonathan Allen walk. And you know what I mean? Like you downgraded, but paid this guy a lot of money. But it's not my money, so whatever. It's good.
Yeah, absolutely. The other offensive line I want to talk about was the Chicago Bears. They signed 3 really good, 1 Hall of Fame, 1 really good, 1 mid but good in this system interior lineman.
Yes.
Joe Tooney, Drew Dahlman, and Jonah Jackson.
Yep.
And I think that all 3, I mean, the Bears offensive line, a disaster. Caleb Williams already has a tendency to take too many sacks. It's the biggest flaw in his game, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And they did not put him in a position to succeed by having literal wet toilet paper for their O-line last year. You think the Bears could trade up to 5 for Gene T? I think they could trade up for Membu.
Yeah, and I think that would be a smarter play. The only problem is Membo is a right tackle or has been in college. They have Darnell Wright there as their right tackle from 2 drafts ago, who played it pretty good last year.
Yeah.
So coming up to get Membo or even staying pat and getting Membo at 10, you're just assuming that he can kick over and play left tackle. And there's always a transition where you have to worry about that, right? But he is the tackle in the top 15 that is a tackle. Everybody else is maybe he's a guard.
Will Campbell's a guard. He's going to be a very good guard, but he's a guard.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how good of a guard he's going to be. He's a really good football player. I just wish his arms were longer.
That's why he'll be a good guard. Won't be that long.
I don't know if he can. Well, we'll see. I mean, I don't know how powered up he is. So everything is bigger and faster and kind of happens heavier inside. So it might be a challenge for him to kind of figure all that stuff out. But
arms too short for tackle, bench press too low for guard. He might be like a tween. You got to figure out exactly what you want to do with him, sort of thing.
He probably could be a Hall of Fame center.
Oh, there you go. So no, that means he shouldn't go in the top. Oh, but if we knew Will Campbell was a Hall of Fame center, fifth would still be the highest. Fourth would be the highest he should go in this draft.
Yeah.
Because Carter, Travis Hunter, and Cam Ward should all go ahead of him anyways. Just because centers are centers. I mean,
yeah,
great having a great center, but
yeah. I'm with you. It's an unknown. There's Kelvin Banks, Texas tackle. It's an unknown where he's going to play. Right?
Yeah.
A lot of these guys have shorter arms, so I don't know. We'll see.
The thing that this indicates to me, though, and as a Lions fan, drives me crazy because, again, what I'm looking for is for Ben Johnson to flame out in 2 years and come back to be the Lions OC again. Right? That's what I want. I normally wouldn't be hating on Ben Johnson if he'd gone to any other division. I'd be rooting for him to be successful. But you're in the division, you need to lose. This indicates to me that he's unlikely to do that.
Yeah. Because
this is a take I've sort of been working on. I think that most coaches know X's and O's in the NFL at a level. They're like NASA rocket scientists, but X's and O's guys.
Yes. Yeah.
So much so that I think the difference between the best X's and O's NFL coach and the worst one, not the worst one's like Adam Gase, but like the 20th worst one is almost negligible.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all these other skills, people management, identifying weaknesses, self-scouting that really set you apart, motivating your players that set you apart from other good coaches.
Yeah.
Ben Johnson walking into the Bears and immediately being like, give me $100 million to spend on the interior offensive line just tells me that he's good at self-scouting. He knows what to look for to make sure his team is good. We already know his X's and O's are there for offense.
Yeah, for sure. And it's very obvious that the strength of the Lions offense is that offensive line.
He's already rescued the career of a disappointing number 1 overall pick who's far less physically gifted than Caleb Williams.
Yes.
Amon-Ra St. Brown is a better wide receiver than DJ Moore, but not as much as their production would lead you to believe based on their careers.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Rome Odunze would be the first wide receiver off the board in this draft, no question.
Yes.
I am terrified Chicago 2026.
I'm with you.
His second year there, I think that team could just be like 14, like we're just steam everybody. We're killing everyone.
Yeah, and then you throw in some of the like they signed Deo Odeyingbo from Indy.
Yeah,
and that is not a move that you make. I mean, that he's a young player who's ascending still.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of the players I wanted the Lions to go after. So yeah, Chicago looks great coming out of free agency. They really do. And there's a semblance of a plan. Like you can say, you have 4 of the 5 pieces on your O-line not solved because you just never know until they play, but you've addressed them.
Mm-hmm.
That's a plan. That's smart. So figure out that starting left tackle, whoever that's going to be. Maybe they sit at 10 and take Josh Simmons, Ohio State's tackle who tore his ACL. I think that makes sense. Right now is it Braxton Jones playing left tackle for them?
Yes.
And they need to upgrade there. It's easier to upgrade one position than 4.
And honestly, if Braxton Jones is your worst offensive lineman, your offensive line is probably average at worst.
Yeah.
So, I think that, I think the Bears have been very impressive in free agency here. Even though I know you weren't very high on Jonah Jackson as a player when he left the Lions. I thought the sky was falling. You were like, don't worry about it. You were right. And like center and guard are important, but not those important positions on the field. But collectively, the massive improvement to recognize that you need it just indicates to me that the Bears they at least have a sharp head coach. Is Ryan Poles still the GM?
Yes.
Okay, well, he has no what he's doing. Kevin Warren still the president. He has no idea what he's doing, I presume.
We'll see what
he's
they
horrible
do.
with the Big Ten.
I could see them going up for Janty and just saying, hey, we have weapons on the outside. We have more. We have O'Duns. We have a tight end we like in Cole Kmet.
Yeah.
So we have layers of weapons, and then we throw Janty, who's this ridiculous running back prospect with our new offensive line, takes a lot of pressure off of Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
But it also allows him to make plays. And then that offense would be pretty exciting. I mean, it really would be.
Yeah. I could see doing something like that. I don't think bad teams should take running backs I don't think any team should take running back that high.
Yeah.
But it's like the most luxury pick. But the Bears might look at their offense now and be like, we're not bad anymore.
They're not bad anymore, and they have a good defense.
Yeah.
They're not bad.
Yeah, I think trying to convince Cleve of this when he comes back in August is going to be.
We'll do our best.
He's going to predict them to win 4 games.
He might be right.
That's my call. All right. So before we go, was there anybody that we didn't get to that you absolutely think we need to talk about here? Stingley, Horn, DJ Reed.
We could talk about the losses the Philadelphia Eagles have absorbed.
Brandon Graham retires. Darius Slay goes to Pittsburgh.
Milton Williams goes to New England.
Yep.
They've been hit pretty good. I think we've got them all. It's just, again, it's, free agents. I looked at it from more of like a team standpoint. I think San Francisco lost a lot in free agency.
Yes.
I think Chicago and Minnesota did a really good job. Again, we've been over this. Washington brought on some risk, but understandable. A couple players, I think free agency is particularly bad for Anthony Richardson.
Dimes to the Colts is important because he might start.
Yep. And then CJ Stroud with all the losses on the O-line. Not that the O-line could get any worse from what it was last year, but you definitely downgraded at some spots. So, it's a bummer for those quarterbacks, but I think we're okay with where we're at.
Okay. Excellent. Well, thank you everybody who joined us in the chat. Jake, Chrissy, we appreciate it. Please like, subscribe, all that. If you're new here watching, catching the replay, like, subscribe. We go live Wednesdays at 7:30. Next week, I think will be our annual rules changes. If my timing is right. Episode.
I look forward to that.
We discussed the rule changes the NFL makes and always our favorite hypothetical rule changes.
Your hypothetical rule changes. I won't have any.
You come up with some this year. So rule changes you'd like to see implemented.
Okay. Sure.
Okay. Good. Excellent. Any final words?
No.
Okay. Thank you again, everybody. We will see you next week. Peace.